Good evening, everyone. Welcome once more. I have Nadeau Sensei and Teja Bell as a good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, out there in the world. Our honored guest tonight, Teja Bell.
Pleasure to be with you, Sensei.
Always a pleasure to have you. Okay. What are we going to do tonight? I don't know. What do you want to start with? Do you have anything on your mind?
Might be nice to start with Aikido.
Okay. All right. Sort of hit me a few days ago, whatever. Something about I wanted to get back to the early beginning of things, and I thought what came to me was the word Aikido as Osensei presented. I thought, well, that's, and as I hung out with it, that sounds like something we could talk about. We use the word, but to get a little deeper into the word. So where should we begin here? Should we do
The syllables? The syllables?
Yeah, Aikido. So maybe from Lauren a little bit. Got to be careful in Japanese because certain words exist in 100, 200 other words. So we'll keep it down. Yes. AI.
So AI means harmony, union, to unite, that is to come together, merge, blend. It also means to fit well or to suit or to agree with. Like, if you eat something and it tastes good, one way to say it is it blends with my mouth. Kuchi ni ao. It's the same verb as in Aikido. It fits, and it's there are homonyms in Japanese for I. One is to meet, like I meet you tomorrow at such and such a place, sounds the same, and also love sounds the same. So I generally harmony, blending, merging, union.
And we'll pause on that.
Sure.
So thank you, Lauren. So I like the word harmony. Okay, so harmony, blending of two things, relationship of two things, whatever, harmony. Then the next word is ki, the blending of energy. Okay, so should we jump into ki, Lauren?
Sure.
Ki,
Energy, life force, very similar to the chi of Tai Chi, similar to the prana in yoga. But ki as a concept or as a word permeates Japanese language. It's used in many, many idioms. I feel good, I feel bad. Someone has patience or not. It's understood to be sort of around you, everywhere, atmosphere, living and non-living things can have ki. Ceramics can have ki, a rock can have ki. But it's certainly about feeling and flowing and connecting.
okay, so ki, the harmony of the two energy forces that are in relation to each other. Okay. Again, this is based on in the beginning of things when there was my sense of things, the oneness. And the oneness, for some reason, decided it wanted to create. So anyway, so you get this movement to create. And the movement was two pieces, whether you want to call that the great yin and yang, the great he, she, the great fire water, the great center circle, whatever. Okay. But now this one thing is broken up into two. Therefore, inherently in the two is a desire to get back together again. Okay. So that's why in the long run, God knows how ever the long run will be. But eventually, everyone's going to get sucked in or affected by that, and eventually return to their oneness. Okay, not going to happen a day after tomorrow. I'm sorry, unless you're Christ or Osensei or something. But anyway, so the harmony of two energies. Okay, where should we go?
Well, might as well do the dough.
No, okay, let's jump into the dough. So the harmony of two energies and then the dough. Lauren, you want to jump in a little bit on the dough?
So dough, the character means the way or the path or the road. It's the dough of Taoism, but it's also by putting dough there, Osensei made clear he wasn't talking about a technique. He was talking about a way of life, a path through conflict or through of development, whatever you want to think of it. But he could have named it Aikijutsu, which would have been Aiki technique, but he didn't. He very, explicitly said it was a do, which in Japanese culture is how you name the classical arts that focus on inner development.
Okay. So there's jujitsu, then out of that came judo. Right?
Right.
And there's stick swinging, whatever, became kendo. So they were inferring that inner development on the quote spiritual path, the do. Okay. And so for me, that reads pretty clear. Harmony of energies, and at that harmony, Osensei's words, he would call that balance point, but I know you people call it differently. That's balance. No, that's harmony and all that. But I'm just following Osensei's talking to me. Harmony to balance. Now, what I like to do, there's the balance point. When the ah and the o, or the left and the right, are sort of feel equal, that there's a doorway there, okay, into the next level. Who am I in this next level? And the finer energies at the next level makes up a better level me. That's my Bobby to Robert game, okay? Now, when you start to get this sense of, Bobby to Robert to Nadeau to eventually here we'll cover archetypes and finer, you're on the road, you're on the path. Okay, so who am I? Now, finer, who am I? The character who you are and the self that's there in alignment with it. You're on the path, you're on the road. What else since they call that the golden bridge, right? What else? Golden bridge,
Floating bridge,
floating bridge of heaven and stuff. This link between it. That's the road. That's the path. So it's all in that phrase, isn't it? Aikido. If you say, oh yeah, I know that word, but if you hang out with it, with that sense of actually experiencing some harmony with whatever you're playing with. And the better level of character, and then soon in the more room, self will show eventually and say, hey, I'm here also in alignment. The qualities that are your color scheme, we each have our own color scheme. Okay, so let's say roughly, he's a musician, so his color quality is maybe different than mine, who sort of majors in martial arts, let's say. Okay. So we each have our own grouping, okay? So, and also sideline there, to not try to mimic somebody else's grouping and miss your own grouping. I think through the ages that's been mentioned as a don't do that. Okay. Right. Even Osensei, I think along this line, said, Nadeau, I'm glad you really care for me and love me and all that shit. But you got to be you and your experiences. So when he talks about something he experienced, I don't expect to have exactly that same experience, but I know at a certain level, something bigger starts to happen. Now, what is my experience with that next level of bigger? He had his, and he threw out some fancy words about his, but now I have to experience mine, and you have to feel yours. Was that?
Even Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And then you cannot be untrue to anyone else.
Yeah. And I like that phrase, by the way, to thine own self be true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The daddy wants you to take over the family business, but it's not you. There's someplace there you got to be to thine own self be true.
Mm-hmm.
No, daddy, I can't take over the family business. I'm going to be a poet.
Much to dad's chagrin.
Yes.
Yes.
Live with it.
That's right.
Okay. Anything else on
It's interesting to me in looking at the characters that the character for I has that rooftop look. It's not two forces coming together like that, two forces coming and making that kind of rooftop blended shape. So it's speaking to me in a way that represents both the harmony that can be within each of us, but it's also talking about, in the big picture, the universal harmony, the way that Aikido represents not only this martial art, that's the kind of the small picture. The larger picture is universal, the universal blend of these forces of creation, and that it is a pathway, that it is a Tao, it is a Do, and one that we engage with in this conscious and intentional way.
And again, I understand those words. I understand the picture he's presenting, but to actually experience the Do or the character self in his own experience in alignment with his trip, that's experiential.
Yeah.
So be careful just memorizing the word, having a good observation of it. Yeah. But there's the actual. And that's what I yell at you about. Where are we here?
Having the sense of the smaller way in which we can appreciate the meaning of the words, and then the deeper potential there is in the experience of them. It connects us both with the meditative or contemplative aspect, which in the best of all worlds is one in which we connect with that in experience. And it's important to have the consciousness and the awareness, but equally as important to embody it, to connect with the deeper potential that's there in Aikido. Not necessarily the martial art, but it's a wonderful pathway. It is just Aikido as Osensei's art is your art, Sensei. The way of connection, and that's what I've always appreciated about that blending aspect, the harmony that's there. And you, of course, take it in a deeper sense to feel the two forces of creation and how they play through us, and what's the potential functionality of that for ourselves. For me, as an artist, as a teacher, then I can use that as a direct experience inside the connecting with the harmony, the balance, which is not a fixed state. These are not fixed states. It's everything is changing and flowing in the universe, as it were.
Yeah. If your situation changes,
Yeah.
this centered character is automatically being affected by that change and is also changing in accordance to the situation. So it fluxes around a bit.
It does flux. It's
Yeah.
always in flux.
But no big deal. You know, you learn to ride with it. Boom, boom.
It's the surfer's metaphor.
It's surfing. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The wave comes, you're either on it or you're not.
And Sensei, if I can add one more thing, the character itself has a lot of stability, visual stability, because of those rooftop blending that Teja was talking about. And then right underneath there is the one single horizontal stroke, the number 1, and below that is a box, which is a mouth. And so it's one voice under the roof, a kind of sense of consensus or unanimity that leads to a sign of blended or stable arrangement that's represented in the character. You know, so to just add that nuance, perhaps.
That was a great presentation, people. Observations, questions, talk to us.
Sensei Bob here.
Hey, Bob.
One other thing about one of the character for Ki, historically what that character came from, which is something you, I think, have almost single-handedly pioneered in Aikido, and that's steam. And the character for Ki came from the steam coming up from cooking rice. So it's a nutrient kind of steam, which allows us, in your terminology, as a travel vehicle, to move to those deeper levels.
Let's go over that one. So Osensei liked fire, water, steam. And I liked that. Should I go into one of my past lives? Real quick, one of my past lives, American Indian, and he was pretty sharp. But he, in his first journey, Indian's journey out to find himself, so to speak, bumped into that. He was on a deserty kind of thing, and hot sun and a little bit of water, and there was steam there. So this fire, sun, water, and the steam that was there. So I had some past life history with that, so I took to it pretty fast. So I like playing with fire, water, steam. And so in that case, the harmony, fire and water, you know when you get harmony because there's a certain sense of the steam there. Almost tangible, could I say after? But not just an idea. Oh yeah, fire, water, steam. I understand that.
Yes.
Stop it. Now you've got to practice and experience. So it begins to feel tangible. Clues you in that there's harmony. Now, what I do there is, okay, instead of trying, well, who am I as steam? I use it as a doorway again. Through the steam into this next dimension, who am I? Boom, boom. And then I'll start the whole next series soon. So is that okay, Bob? Did I cover everything with
Yes,
that?
Sensei. And I mean, even some of Osensei's closest uchideshis have said to you that they never really got that sense of steam until you laid it out.
Well, I've always been interested in the inner, finer work. So there it is.
Well, in that vision quest that you were talking about in that life, not just about awareness, but about that experience, about what the steam represents, is the functional or the wholesome blending of those forces that
Harmonious blending, could we say?
we could say that. As a matter of fact, that's not bad at all. You might have to write that down. the harmonious blending of those forces for greater functionality, for greater direct experience of how these forces play into and through us.
And then the beingness of it
Yeah.
is a step on the path, the do.
Mhm.
You're potentially beginning to do. Must be a joke there, the do man or something.
Yes, sure there is.
Anybody comments, anything? Thank you, Bob, on that. And anybody? Questions, comments, observations?
Well, I can add one more nuance here on ki, which is that it's also used in compound words like electricity.
Denki.
Yeah, you know, and so it's an invisible force, you know, that has presents itself in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but it was recognized as a force that exists, not, you know, and when they discovered electricity, they didn't have a word for it, and so they made one up, you know, thundercloud and the energy therefrom, you know. So it's like I said before, it's used in many idioms, and so for Japanese people that Osensei would have been around, they would have understood it intuitively right away. No question about what he's talking about. What to do with it, that's another story, but they would have understood the word.
Yeah, aliveness, vitality, elan. I forget this key cheese, the elan. Good French word there.
Very nice. That's a great word.
Very much so, yes.
He's juicy. He's help me now, people.
No,
he's
juicy.
He's
Yes.
He's a vibrant character. He's this because he got a certain amount of harmonies, a better level. Things are manifesting that even other human beings can pick up. Whoa, he's special, isn't he? He's juicy. He's attractive. He's help me.
Oh, those are good.
Come on, give me some English ones.
Supercharged.
What? Supercharged? Supercharged. Yeah. And that brings up to mind a little something that came to me. I don't know where, when, with who. But I was thinking of the core radiating as a reference for this energy. That I've got little batteries in my closet. Let's say a battery for my smoke alarm. And so there's enough juice there to work the smoke alarm for a year. Okay. But it can't start my car. To start my car, I got to move along finer and finer and get to a 12-volt battery that can easily start my car. And I kind of like that sense of it, instead of maybe just saying this core and then a bigger core and it radiates. It's a battery. And then there's a bigger battery. And I forget why, but once some years back, I wanted to research something about batteries. I don't remember why now. So I went to a sort of like a battery factory that's down the road here, and I talked to the salesperson there, and they had another level of battery that I was looking for. Again, I don't remember why. That if your car or vehicle sat for a long period of time, this battery was able to kick on and start it, whereas most 12-volt batteries after a while go dead on you. So they had this other battery. I don't remember what they called it. But that was, again, a better battery that could have more endurance or long life capability and still retain its power. So I like the battery sense of things as opposed to core. What the hell is core? Hara. Oh my God, that's an Oriental word. The Japanese understand it, but I don't. It's a Nadeau, you got to learn to talk nice. It's a battery, and then there's a bigger battery. Americans can understand batteries. Hello out there. Okay, so
in the human body, we sometimes reference that as a bio battery. Actually, that's an actual term.
Oh, yeah.
Bio battery. So the hara, not as some kind of abstract, super refined field of energy, is interlaced with the fabric of our bodies. So a lot of the practice in internal arts and internal martial arts and Aikido and Tai Chi and Qigong are helping to cultivate and refine that essential nature. It's essential nature. It's not something foreign to us. It's not something that some people have and some people don't.
Yeah.
Maybe some people have more than others, but.
And some people's have been dormant for whatever reason.
That's right.
Yeah. And they kind of like in life sort of barely get by, but they have a battery, but they have access to the next bigger battery to come more alive. So yeah, everyone has it, but for some people, they don't tap it. They don't sort of know it's there. Other people like Schwarzenegger,
Sure.
He gets this great idea for something and then he taps something. And his is pretty good because when he taps it, that's what built up the 5 years in a row or more, Mr. Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best of the best of the best. He was able to tap this and it would manifest. Okay.
I'll just make a note here that when you watch Sensei sit and talk and explain things, he's doing this action quite a bit. Mm-hmm. That's not by mistake. That's a deep feeling of the forces of whatever, however we want to call this, but pulsing and allowing the circulation, the whole being circulation, to feel greater fullness, to allow that whole system wellness to begin to take place, cultivate that. So this action that we can do and that we often do in Aikido, especially when Sensei is leading energy classes or something like that. So we're breathing. This is not a mistake. This is a way of actually connecting in the fields, in the finer, direct experiential way of the pulse of the universe. It's not just waving our hands. Qigong is not this, not just doing that. It's a whole system. I think I got a smile out of Noah on that one.
Okay.
Sensei's Chris here from New Zealand. Just in the do you think we get limited a little bit in Aikido when people just talk about the extension of ki in like the arms, the unbendable arm, and it almost stops at that point. It's an extension of like a limb, and it's at a very small level, I guess.
Beginning level for to start people off as an example. Yeah. Go ahead.
It almost sort of stops here in a lot of instances. We don't sort of expand on it more and more, which is the beauty of being connected with you, Shihan, and everyone in this group, is that we do expand on just that extendable arm, the extension of ki. That's more to us than just those things.
Yeah. We can tap the smaller battery that emanates energy and just use the arm extension, and we're able to check it. Then we continue, sense of a larger battery, and maybe we do both arms and we get checked there to make sure it's actual. Yeah. It's not a bullshit idea, it's actual.
Yeah.
Then next battery radiating, and maybe we walk under pressure.
Walk under pressure, yeah.
So a little pressure, but there's enough beginnings of field of energy that walks the whole body. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to offer something in relationship to that. So it's not just, as Mark, you were saying, it's not just about the key, the chi. It is, it's the the other elements that are lining up with that simultaneously. So if Osensei talked about Aikido as the embodiment or the practice of principles, the unbendable arm is not just about how much, like a volume of ki or chi. It's lining up with your centeredness, with your groundedness. There's a number of beautiful principles that we practice in certain ways from time to time that contribute to that. So not just about the laser beam of ki coming out your hand or arm, right?
Thank you, Chris. I've never done this one. Can you pressure me with your left? Just here.
In that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so easy. Okay. Okay. Now, I've never done this, so who am I? What did that do for me? What's the fuller of me? Yes, we got that as a reference. Yes, it's pretty good. But just at this level, what else is going on? What are the qualities? Bear with me. I don't know, I'm starting to have some fun. There's a sense of enjoyment. I'm not sure of what, but just a sense of enjoyment. So where am I going with that? Oh, so that was an example, okay? But always you can continue into the more finer of things. Well, that was cute, but who am I? What are my qualities at this level? If I can pick up at this level what the qualities are. Am I saying anything intelligent here?
Yeah, you're speaking about the other elements, the other qualities that are present in the
Using quality things there. Yeah. I've never done that. I've never done walking under pressure and then really said, okay, now who am I? As this energy field walker, that felt pretty good. Now to take an aside and who am I and what's my qualities here other than I walk better? Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the inner sense. Who am I? Inner qualities. For example, would I be more caring or more loving or more intelligent or whatever?
Just go ahead.
Sorry, I always enjoyed the practice. I think it was a lesson many years ago. I think you've done on YouTube, Shihan, about that the arm was just almost a byproduct. The unbendable arm was almost a byproduct of the space you're in. The body just did that. It's not like you made the unbendable arm. It's just you at that level. The arm did that. The arm was that as such. And then as you transition through it, grew and grew, and you just become different and different. And the arm was more and more.
Yeah. Even when I was connecting with Sensei, I'm just like, we just did that like 1, 2. But the second one, we just started with that pressure. And the second one, I started to feel I could have the sense of his whole being, the presence of his whole being. Now, that's a kind of different listening that we cultivate in our internal practices. So we're listening not just for the content of the chi or the ki in this sense, but listening for the connection. And that's below, as I sometimes say, below the level of language. It's in feeling and has the sense of moving or really relational connection, the relationship.
So he's a she, okay? I care for you. But if you're doing this
really
more inner and you make a touch, what he's talking about is almost here. You should be able to feel it here. There's a touch. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I used to hang out with young ladies, I had a couple of compliments of ladies saying, when you touched me,
Mhm.
Bing. So you see, this stuff is useful, people.
Well, there's a certain, I don't know what, if I were to name a quality, I'd say there was a certain sweetness. There was certain
You
like
see?
respectfulness that was in that, in that connection.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the first touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Tom? Tom? I know you're there. I saw you.
I'm there. I'm here. Let's see.
I'm sure you've used a bit of that in your day.
Uh,
Yesterday.
It's in on the mat or on the dance floor,
Mhm.
dancing tango.
Dance floor, it's good. Yeah.
For 20 years now. It's all about that connection, that
Yes.
more subtle and deeper connection, more than what you see on more than what you see on the mat. There's this other thing that's going on that's much more dominant in the energy.
It reminds me, maybe you were even there, we do it in class now and then, where I have two people walk hand in hand, so to speak, across the mat. And I asked the rest of the students as the audience to say when they look like a pair, a team, whatever you'd call that. What are two horses called? Who are?
Team.
Huh?
A team of horses or a brace.
Yeah, when there's a real click where it's not like he's over here and she's over there kind of thing, where they really feel like a matched pair. And that would be part of our practice for the students to get an eye for when things were clicking that way.
Yes.
And part of the practice for what level do you have to be at? What level do they have to be at for that sharing is happening where people with an eye can see it?
Mhm.
Yeah. They know you're a couple.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
There is that certain click we used to talk about on the mats where uke and nage come together. It's almost like a dance. And there is a click at the center. That's the fun part. That's the most exciting part, let's say.
Sometimes you can't tell who's who, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a good throw. That's right. In a good throw, for a moment in the middle of that throw, you shouldn't really know who is nage and who is uke. There's such something right in the middle right there. Help me with words here.
Well, I'd say coherency or an integration of the blending of the forces.
Yeah.
We might even say harmony.
Oh, harmony. Yes.
I wrote that down for me.
And that's where the qualities seem to come in, the qualities of connection. It's almost like you seek it out again, that perfect partner or that perfect dance or that perfect tune or that perfect throw. And we're always trying to get back to that place, recreate that moment. I think that's why we keep training.
Yeah, good. So let's say at whatever dimensional level of harmony, that harmony spot is a nice spot. And that's what Tom, I'm sure, is talking about right here. It's a nice spot. And if you had it with that lady, then you want to get back and dance with her because it was easy to find that spot with her for whatever reason. But it's that spot. Yeah. And it's that spot that I call the doorway. And in that spot, I can open to the next. But even the spot alone is nice. That's where I get a little irked at some meditators because their spot is calmer. And they stop there, calmness. And they think they've sort of, in a certain way, arrived. Yeah, to a calm place or a nice place. Okay. Is Ross on tonight? Didn't see him. No, Ross?
No, Sensei, he is not
Okay.
here.
But one Friday night, if anyone remembers, his experience, he said, "Oh, a nice space." And I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "A nice guy." And then I think I said again, who are you? What I wanted there, because that harmony of the two nice forces, the he and she of the nice force, was an obvious nice guy. But I wanted to doorway with it and go into the next level. Who are you? Not to stop there at that. See, if you've been nervous all your life and you learn to meditate or breathe or whatever, and you get to a calm place, that's wow for you, because usually you're nervous and suddenly you know how to get to a calm place. I can see where you'd be happy with it and want to stay with it. I got no bitch. Don't stay forever. Move on if you have any sense of moving on, if you have any sense of more. If you don't, and you're going to stop there, I'm okay with that. And you'll go away, of course, because you know how to get there on your own. And I'll say they reach their level of comfortableness. They're comfortable there, they're happy there, and they don't have an urge, a desire, an inner pull to continue on. Okay. Now, some of us have this inner pull and we can't stop. Okay. Osensei couldn't stop. Okay. It's just so strong. Who am I really? And who was I before I was this? This continuous pull of inner, finer on the path to a more original. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Sensei.
Bring up a lot of nice
And
stuff.
and the good news is that you can have it both. You can keep your calmness. It doesn't mean you're giving up or throwing away your calmness to move on.
Just not forever.
Yeah, but you're not stuck in a place or making your identity, as Oliver was saying earlier.
Or calling that heaven.
Yeah,
This must be heaven. This is
Must be
God.
right?
It's a nice level, people, but come on. And don't go there. How you doing, Oliver?
Good, thank you.
Oliver's visiting in from England, sharing my front porch with me. Should I do that thing?
Yeah, I think that's a really nice demonstration of both blending and the spiral and the connection.
I had to teach at CAA for my short 30-minute session or whatever, and I touched on this for the troops that were there, but I mulled on it after and thought, that was kind of cute. So let me lay it out. Oh, God. Oh, let's see, what angle should we use? I don't know. First the camera. Better use this one. Thank you. I think that's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. One way I've presented this, a little firmer. This level, this bobbing. Okay, easy. Settling down into deeper, sense of opening, of course, deeper. There's a pool of energy, okay, at this next dimensional level. And that pool of energy starts to flow up through the body, okay? I felt a little pressure on my bad shoulder. So I'm going to hit it again. It wasn't full enough. Easy. There. A little stronger and it didn't hurt. Hurt after, but didn't hurt during. Okay, so I also call that first energy like a old-time rifle that was a smooth bore. Okay, just like a smooth bore. Smooth bore. Okay. Then after how many years, 100 years, whatever years, as it got refined, finer energies, deeper, more, it starts to spiral. Okay. So at level 1, I'm happy with just straight energy flow. A little bit deeper, level 2, let's call it. The energies are finer and more intelligent. They say, by the way, we spiral. So I let them come through in a spiraling form. Okay? Easy. Next level. Deeper. Deeper. And not only do they spiral, but there's a little feeling here of receptive and positive. Okay. If we were to continue, probably in the same pattern, deeper, larger pool, a pond instead of a puddle. Boom, easy, fuller. Now, this receptive positive begins to bring his body in a bit more. I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. So where am I going with this? I'm just showing the different levels that are dimensions. The unspiraling of the vortex into a little bit finer is in here. Am I confusing them? And then by allowing these things, each level has its own intelligence. So it says, by the way, I spiral. By the way, there's receptive and positive in my movement. That, by the way, if you continue, you begin to have a bigger sway around you. Blah, blah. Thank you. Did I miss anything on that? Why did I want to bring that out? To amuse the Aikido people? I don't know.
Well, I think part of that is demonstrating the potential dimensions inside. I mean, we use Aikido as a form, but it shows the potentials of levels of deepening. I started to see the double spiral, the double, kind of the helix, double helix start to happen at the same time. So energy, the way that the chi is moving through your presence of being. It's not so much you're letting go in a way of the technique and being in the vortex of the flow. And in doing that, you start to see simultaneously, that's why I'm talking about that double helix, because you start with that, but there's a complementary action that's moving Oliver off to the side. It's just that's for our inner work. It's a metaphor of deepening in the experience of the presence of being, and that's what I really appreciate. Because you can't think your way into this, and you can't think your way out of it. You have to let go, to easy the eye. To quote
that famous
Aikido guy who,
whatever his name is.
yes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some reflections that folks have on that.
Also, I sort of don't like, I take exception to teachers who try to teach the students, like the first time it spirals, or maybe the first time it spirals and it's receptive positive. And I'm thinking they're talking to a level 1 or less person, and they're trying to talk about finer levels. So even if the lesser person can sort of mimic it, he automatically thinks, oh, I learned this, but I learned it and I do it. And this whole sense of, at one level, it properly is fuller straight. At the next level, it spirals. Next level, it spirals and shows more obvious receptive and positive. So I'm not saying that good enough, but I'm trying to say something there. And again, I don't like trying to teach 10-pound people 30-pound techniques. It's like, no, let's bring them to their 30-pound level and then expect them to do a 30-pound technique, not to teach the 10-pounder, because the 10-pounder thinks, oh, that's how you get it. You learn it. You learn it. And there's something is missing. Inner development is potentially missing. Did I say that good enough?
Yeah, no, it's the development. I think you're saying it exactly right. It's the developmental process that you can't rush it. You can't have the embodied insight of a 3-by, to use that one, when you're just starting on something. You have to allow a certain natural developmental process take place. So I think that's what you were saying in other words.
In other words,
Please be true.
in other words.
So it is true. You're getting the band back together.
Yes. That was a lot of layout. Say something, people.
This is Justin. I'd love to piggyback on what you guys have been talking about and what Chris introduced with the unbendable arm exercise in
You know, we have to be, excuse me, we have to be careful the word unbendable arm, because if you're going to demonstrate and you say unbendable arm, some gorilla will get up out of the audience and bend your damn arm.
Yeah, let's call it a dimensional arm.
A little energy arm example. Watch out for unbendable, because somebody sure as shit is going to
break your
Thank
arm.
you.
break your arm.
With our energy arm is to touch on this example that Osensei had demonstrated more than once of holding the Jo out and the ukes pushing on the Jo. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Terry Dobson come out at one point to test and just bounced right off of the Jo?
Yeah,
And
here's
in
the
fact, you
story.
can't get there by doing so many push-ups or, like you said, Sensei, to think your way out of it. It's not in that, but in the developmental dimensional process.
Here's the story from Terry as I heard it. Osensei was doing that one, so called out whatever 4 people, but he wasn't called out, and he was sitting there and feeling a bit pissy about it, because Terry, New York Terry, and so he says, "The hell with it," and so he gets up and very fast, virtually running, he's going to hit that stick, and that's when he hit that stick and bounced off. Yeah, and the stick didn't move, of course. Sorry, just wanted to clarify the story as I heard it from Terry.
Justin, yes.
And he was a pretty big boy in those days. I don't
Oh,
know.
yes.
He was big.
He was big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sensei, I was at the CAA training with you, and you did a practice, katate dori from the rear, and then stepping, opening, settling, and then turning into ikkyo. And you talked a lot about fullness. And as it turns out, that was Sunday, Saturday at Mountain View, you'd done the same technique, and also talked about fullness. And later, when we talked about, the meaning of the word Aikido, we talked about ki, I realized that if I were in Japan and you were teaching, you would have said ki ippai. It's like you literally full of ki, like a glass is full to the top, brimming with ki, would have been, the colloquial way to, you've simplified it, just call it fullness, understand, but that fullness that you talked about really seems applicable, or describing the ki rushing through you, filling you. So I really like that fullness word that you use.
Yeah. Okay, that should be okay then. Okay, the movement he's talking about, I call him woo-woo man. Easy, And again, this one dumb thing I sometimes start with is, oh, Bobby, yeah. Stretching it out a bit, open to a deeper, and in this case, want to do a bigger, like a whole field of energy. Okay, so fuller. And I noted that one, a little pain in my bad shoulder, but livable, but let's hit the next one. Easy, same thing. Fuller. And there's a sense that this is the diameter. It feels a little better, clearer to me. And from that fullness, no pressure, no pain in the shoulder now. And I don't know how the move was. How was the move?
Feels deeper, more open.
Or open. Open?
More around.
So where are we going? So anyway, that's the one Lauren's talking about. I think I did that just to get a bigger sense. Then one way of looking, then when I said, let's do this one, I was in essence saying, now within that bigger, let's look at these levels, or the bigger acknowledges circle of things. Now let's look at the center part and the dimensionality in that. Did I say it right there? Yeah, thank you. Okay on that, Lauren, did that excite you no end? Hello, people. Where are we? Great insights, questions, observations, insights. Hello.
One of the aspects that I just observed in your demonstration of those two things is the one with the hand back that you just did had that spherical circular nature, and the Morihei Dori was really connecting with the center line and center channel, and the way that it does it's spiraling, so it's not static. None of this is static.
And as the center got better, it naturally began to affect or be more receptive and begin to draw the whole body of uke in. Yeah, so that'll naturally happen. You get enough center, and you'll notice your world's getting a bit better somehow. Okay. See, when I was just sort of training on my own, so to speak, developing this center, I was a center guy to start with, and really working on that and more. Yeah, I got my little Aikido class. It's brand new, pretty much. But as I continued to train me, things begin to open up. Classes started to include meditation classes, all women's martial art, energy awareness classes, started to expand a bit. I continued training me. Excellent kind of stuff happened, opened up a whole new world. So something like that as for me is my kind of sense of an example of do enough center and the circle starts to want to be in there and shows that it's there more. Rah.
Not only did the Esalen, it only open up for you, but it opened up for the people, the participants and the other teachers that were there. I think Noah knows that probably better than all of us, and maybe Moon too, a few others that were with you at that time. But it's interesting to note the impact that your practice has had on the let's see what to call it, the transpersonal psychology movement and the Gestalt movement, and all those. They're wonderful in theory. They've got great and useful theory, and perhaps in their individual practices, one-on-one, they're good. But I think what they saw in you was, here's somebody that understands this on a deeper level. That's what attracted them to your teaching, into your practice at that time.
Yeah.
And beyond.
They were heavy in psychology at
Yeah.
the time. Heavy. So that was a bit of a shock and a bit of a
Yes, you were.
breath of fresh air, maybe.
Hopefully. Yeah, no, I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
Because for them, they've been talking about it,
Yeah.
and maybe even dreaming about it.
Yeah.
But then they saw you, and you were someone who was actually able to demonstrate in motion, in relationship, what they had been talking about and studying.
I think they'd say things like, "Whoa, you're moving Gestalt." What the hell is Gestalt? You know, I don't know. I still don't know. Okay. Quick check. I made a couple of notes. The batteries, the Aikido, da. Yeah. Talk to us, people.
Sensei, I wonder if in this conversation, we've talked a lot about I in Ki. We haven't talked so much about the Do. And when you go to a big training like the CAA and you see a lot of people you don't even know their names or where they've come from, just sitting on the side and watching, I can see that some people really sort of take the time to get into what they're doing, and some people kind of throw away their turn or whatever. And so there's really an apparent difference between teaching Aikijitsu and Aikido. The difference between Bujitsu and Budo is, I heard a strong emphasis in Japan, and I heard that from you when we met as well. You didn't use those words. You said it's not about the technique, it's about the internal practice. But I wonder if you or Teja might talk about, it's not that there's no technique, right? It's just not the focus. It's not the framing.
If I'm hearing you, that we can practice, we're using Aikido there, we can practice using the harmony of energies, okay, in whatever form, whether you're your own body of your receptive and your positive, okay, thing, so that harmony can bring you to a better level. And who are you at that level? Okay. And the finer of that, where your relationships, so you're using uke and nage and uke much more fully at a certain level, the harmony of that. Now step away, who am I here? Okay. I'm not sure if I'd even want to bring up the do right here, not in the dojo. Bear with me, I said explain myself. I'm getting all the pieces lined up, got more space, I've got some harmony, I've got a better character. I think I'd like to talk about the do, the paths to my development and the inner finer. I think I'd like to sort of keep that for me reserved for when I can sit and really be at that level, sensing, experiencing that. I'm not sure if I want to throw in the do in the dojo. I'm not sure. You following me?
Yeah, if I'm tracking you, to talk about the way as it's spoken about in the Chinese and certainly in the Japanese, in the art of war and so on. To speak about the way is in some ways is to move away from the way, and I think that's what you were pointing to.
Well, we start talking about it.
Yeah, we're talking.
Hi, I just did Kotegaeshi. I'm on the path. I'm not sure we're going to even talk about it there.
Yes and no.
You know,
But I want to jump in and say neither would I. Right. That's I wouldn't
But
talk
you
about
brought it
either.
up. We're into this mess because you brought it up.
I am, because you and I talked about it on Sunday and Monday. And
We talked about it. Go ahead. Right.
so the contradiction is this, and I've had it for a long time, right? I'm going to practice Aikido to change my life. The waza aren't important. That's not the goal. Go to a dojo, everybody's teaching waza. You practice, what does it mean? Yeah, here's your waza, right? And then, well, that waza is not important, right? And so I've asked different people this question, and the best answer I heard is the waza is there to teach you how the world works, and that you can operate in that world, in that situation, but that's not the goal. The goal is the internal change, and that's the path.
Yeah.
And so,
And
and it's,
The
yes.
waza is just a reference
Yeah,
for this inner development. It could have been golf.
it could have been, but
swimming.
you know, attracted
have
to
been-
martial arts.
Yeah, just you're using something for a reference. If you're a healer, how well did you heal that patient is a reference for how you're doing here. Right,
Yes.
Justin? You following that one,
Yes,
Justin?
yes.
So in a certain way, could I say, dangerous territory here, don't make a god of the form you're using. You see?
Mhm.
In a certain way, to me, approaching golf properly with an Osensei sense, I could get a lot out of that. But let's not make Aikido a god and not golf.
Yeah, sure.
Am I saying things right?
The form is the gateway, Lauren, as you and I have talked about, and as we worked on Nadeau's book over the years. The form is the gateway or the portal to the inner practice, to the practice of the principle. So we can all be working on a technique in the dojo, but it's our inner work that distinguishes for us the value of that as it continues to represent itself. The form is the gateway, is the portal for the practice.
And could I add there?
Yes.
And we know there are certain people that don't want to get nothing out of Aikido. And we don't freak out and think they're sinners and they're going to hell. Okay. They have to find their own pattern, following this pattern of you do something out here, but you're referencing inner to do something out here. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah.
That's great.
Okay, good.
Good.
Oh, look at the time already. People this is our sushi night here. So we're not going to go on too much longer. Let's anybody?
Let me check in with Lauren for just a minute, because I just want to see how that all landed. This is a conversation that he and Yoder and Noah and Moon and I, Susan Spence, have had for ages around this. So I just want to see how that lands, how that's landing.
I appreciate you asking, Teja. To me, the fact that it's a do is what unifies this inner outer, right? That's what tells you that that's really what you're doing, is you're unifying this inner outer. Whether you're studying tea or archery or Aikido or golf, right? But when it becomes the path of golf, rather not just the game of golf.
If I were teaching golf, I would call it golf do. I'd have
Exactly.
to.
It's another
Exactly.
one of the books. Okay.
Exactly. And so to recognize it as a do, as a path, is to recognize that Osensei set us out a way of unifying the inner and outer form, and that's what I love so much and why I'm still walking this path with you. And so I think that that's all I can say tonight. I don't want to belabor it. I appreciate you asking.
Thank you. I think I'd like to finish. Anybody, anything last thing? Going, gone? We're out of here. Thanks for hanging out. See you in, what's the
2
date?
weeks on September 15th.
September 15th.
Thank you, Sensei. Pleasure to be with you tonight.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, indeed.
Our English gentleman going back to his home country day after tomorrow.
And always great appreciation for Brad, who runs and makes all this happen. On so
We
many
sometimes
levels.
forget because he hides behind the couch over here and we forget he's there. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.